Hello everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Destiny video. We're going to continue looking at some more of the upgrades and supports and events from the Awakening set. So we are on Personal Escort currently. It's a red villain card, just costs one resource, and the attached character has the Guardian keyword. So again, Guardian is when you activate that character, you can resolve one of your opponent's dice showing damage against that character, and then that die gets removed. So if they have like a 2 range damage showing, you can activate your character, take 2 damage, and then remove their die. What this does is it keeps damage off of your main characters. Like if you have like a main character that you don't want to be taking damage, you can attach this to another character, like a stormtrooper, activate the stormtrooper, and then basically it diverts damage away from the character that you don't want taking the damage. So it's a you can also mess with your opponent's dice with this. So if they have like let's say a 2 range damage showing and a +2 range damage showing, you can resolve the normal 2 damage, leaving them with +2 range damage, which they won't be able to resolve unless they re-roll or are able to focus into like a normal damage side or something like that. So gives you dice control, keeps your main characters alive, and it only costs one resource, which is pretty good. We're going to move on to the next card. Here we are now with Abandon All Hope. It's a villain blue event, costs 2 resources, and it forces an opponent to choose to either discard their hand or lose all their resources. Whenever I play this, I say you either lose your hand, get it, haha, or you lose your resources. So what it does is if they're saving up for something big, like if they're playing against a villain deck and they have an ATST in their hand, and they're hoarding resources to pay for that ATST, play this, and they're either going to have to lose the ATST or lose the resources that they were saving to pay for it. Um, sometimes people will choose to get rid of the hand because if they're playing a deck that has something like Scavenge in it, they can get some of those cards back. A lot of times it takes longer to get resources than it does to draw into what you need. So if they're running Scavenge, they can get it back. If they're running Starship Graveyard, they could claim the battlefield and then put the card that they were saving for back on top of their deck. The thing with this though is you don't want to do this when your opponent has either no hand or no resources because the opponent gets to choose. So if they have 0 resources and a full hand, they can still choose to lose the resources even though they have none. So it would be kind of wasted in that situation. But if you see they have like a hand of 4 or 5 cards and they're sitting on 5 resources, go ahead and play this, and then they have to make that decision if they want to get rid of discard all their cards or lose their resources. Whenever I play blue villains, this is kind of a staple card. It's very controlly because like I said, get rid of their resources, get rid of their hand. I was running this in my Vader and Stormtrooper deck just because it's put your opponents in a tough situation. Do they want to lose their resources or their hand? I don't know, but it's either way, it's a bad situation for them. Again, just don't play it if they have either no hand or no resources because they'll just choose the thing that they're already out of to get rid of, and they'll get to keep their hand or their resources or whatever it is. But that's Abandon All Hope. We're going to move on to the next card. Here we are now with Boundless Ambition, another blue villain event, cost 1, and it's draw cards up to your hand size. I really don't find this card particularly useful. I have a ton of it, but I've never used it in any decks. It does pair well with No Mercy, because with No Mercy, that's another event you just discard a bunch of cards to you can increase damage with that. It also works kind of well with Dooku because of Dooku's ability. It states whenever Dooku takes damage, you can discard a card to get a shield. Those I think are like the only real times I would like consider it useful. I'm not a fan of Boundless Ambition because if you're getting, like, let's say you're playing against a mill deck and you're getting milled, even if you draw your hand back up, you're still going to be probably getting milled out of there anyway. So to I think wasting a card slot or 2 slots if you're running 2 of it is kind of like a waste in a deck unless you're building into like a No Mercy combo which may or may not even like go off. Um, I just don't particularly think it's a good card because at the when the round's over, you'll draw up to your hand size anyway. So I don't know if drawing up in the middle of the middle of the round is worth putting one or two of these in your deck for. I personally don't think it is, but again, it does pair with No Mercy. It works somewhat well with Dooku because you have more stuff to discard to get to increase his survivability. But I think that's pretty much it. Again, I'm not running No Mercy, or I'm not running a No Mercy deck, and I'm not currently running a Dooku deck. So this card, to me, is kind of a waste currently. But it does have uses in some decks, though. We're gonna move into the next card. Here we are now with Enrage, another blue villain event. It costs 0 resources, and it says deal one of your characters 1 damage to gain a resource. So if you have a character that has a lot of health left, you give them 1 damage, you get 1 resource for it. This could work well with Dooku because Dooku states before he is dealt damage, you can discard a card to get a shield. So basically, you deal damage to Dooku, discard a card, give him a shield, and then he'll have a shield to take that damage, and you get that resource. And then again, this isn't something you're gonna cycle through and through over and over again. You'll have maybe 2 uses of this, unless you have a way to get this out of your discard pile. But it can work well with Dooku. It just works well on characters that have high health, like someone like Vader, or if you have characters that have Guardian. You're keeping like we discussed earlier, you're keeping your main characters at full health by diverting damage to the Guardian characters. So your characters like Vader or Dooku or Kylo Ren may have very little to no damage on them. So if you just put 1 damage on them, you can get a resource. And 1 damage for 1 resource, I think, is a pretty fair trade-off, especially if you have ways to negate damage. Like if you have a character that has a lot of shields, you take 1 damage, just take a shield off, and then you get your resource. So it can work well with Dooku as well because he has the ability, says whenever he takes damage, you can discard a card, get a shield, and then the damage from Enrage would just take that shield off, and then you have 1 extra resource that you just got. So they can be good in those situations. And again, 0 cost to do that is pretty good as well. We're going to move into our next card. And here we are with our final card for today. We're looking at Feel Your Anger. Blue villain event costs 1 resource. Count the number of blanks showing on an opponent's dice and then remove that many of their dice. So if they have 2 blanks showing and a die with range damage and a die with a resource, you count the 2 blanks and then remove the 2 other dice. I suppose you could remove the dice with blanks as well, but you want to remove something that has like values on it. So like range damage, melee damage, focuses, whatever. Remove those 2, and then they're going to either have to discard a card to reroll the 2 dice with blanks, or probably just try to claim the battlefield or pass. It's a very good card at dice control. It also works well if you use it with something like Force Choke. So you use a special on Force Choke to deal damage to a character and then turn one of the character dies to any side that you want, obviously turning it to a blank. If you do that a couple times, or if they just have blanks in their pool from when they rolled, then play Feel Your Anger, count up the blanks, count up, and then remove that many dice. It's very good at getting dice off of the table, especially if they rolled really badly. Like let's say they rolled a total of 5 dice and 3 of them are blanks. You play this, you're going to count 3 blanks and remove 3 dice from their pool. And then that gives them obviously less stuff to use if they rolled any symbols or anything that was actually useful. And then they're also just going to lose an extra die because if it's two normal symbol or 2 dice with symbols and a die with a blank, you count 3 blanks, remove those dice. It gives them less to do and also less potential stuff that they can actually re-roll if they wanted to discard to do so. So that's Feel Your Anger with the Emperor. Feel Your Anger. A very good villain card. So that's going to do it for today's video. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. We'll be back tomorrow, and I want you to take care. Have a good one.